This video is going to cover the topic of modeling multiplying fractions. Be sure the date and topic are at the top of your page. The essential question, which also needs to be on your page, is how do we visualize or model multiplying fractions? Sometimes we need to be able to find a part of a fraction. When we multiply fractions, we're able to calculate a fraction of a fraction, or what you'll hear me refer to, or what you might think of as a part of a part. And in both of those, I'm going to underline this word of. You'll really hear me emphasizing that it's a piece of something. Let's imagine this scenario. So we'll have Leo and his pan of brownies, and Leo wants to eat some brownies, but some are already missing. So when we see the pan, only 2/3 of the pan is filled with brownies, and Leo wants to eat 1/2 of what is there. We're going to model what that looks like so we can see how much of the entire pan Leo is actually eating. We'll start with our pan of brownies, and the first thing I'm going to do is cut it into thirds because someone took 1/3 of the brownies. So I'm going to go ahead and horizontally cut this into 3 equal sections, right? This is 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. But right now, there's only brownies in these 2/3, right? Somebody took one of the thirds. So that right there is 2/3. Now, Leo's plan is to eat what's half of what's there, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and in the other direction, I'm going to cut this down in half. So we have half here. He's going to take his knife maybe and cut it down in half. Now, of these two sides, Leo's going to eat maybe this half. But remember, there's only brownies here and here. This other section down below doesn't have any brownies. So these two parts are the parts that Leo's going to eat. So Leo's going to eat 2 sections out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leo's going to eat 2/6 of the brownies. So what I know now is that 1/2 of 2/3 is 2 out of 6. Or to look at this as a multiplication problem, 1/2 times 2/3 equals 2/6. And I know some of you are thinking, oh, 2/6, that's the same as 1/3. That's true as well, right? So we could write that also as the simplified version, 1/3. So Leo is eating 1/3 of the entire pan of brownies. Let's try another one, this time without a story. But let's see what 1/3 of 3/4 would be. And this is where our grid paper really comes in handy. I'm going to make a rectangle that is split into 4ths in one direction and 1/3 in the other. So you can see I drew a 3x4 rectangle. We're going to go ahead and in one direction we're going to break it into 4 sections, and 3 of those sections I'm going to shade in. So 1, 2, 3. This represents 3/4 of my pan of brownies, for example, or 3/4 of an acre of land. And then in the other direction I'm going to break it up into thirds. So I'm going to go 1, 2 down here, 2 this way, right? So we have a rectangle cut into thirds, but I'm going to shade in one of those thirds. And I'm just going to go ahead and label those pieces just for emphasis here. But where we have the overlap is where we actually see our solution to this. So if I'm looking for 1/3 of the 3/4, I'm looking right here where my sections overlap. And I'm going to use that to come up with the answer to my multiplication problem. So 1/3 of 3/4 means I'm going to be multiplying 1/3 times 3/4. And in my visual, I see 1, 2, 3 sections that overlap out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections. So 1/3 times 3/4 is equal to 3/12. And again, some of you are thinking, I know I can simplify that. And you're right. That could also be the same as 1/4. Let's try 2/5 of, or 2/5 times 2/3. We're going to go ahead and make our rectangle. And my rectangle is going to be 5 by 3. And we're going to go ahead and cut it into fifths, maybe horizontally, 5 sections. And I need to shade in 2 of those. 1, 2. And in the other direction, we're going to cut it into thirds, because that's what we have here. And we're going to shade in 2 of those. So 1, I'm just going to go all the way up, and 2. Right? And if I'm looking to solve this, I'm going to say, well, 2/5 times 2/3 is where I have this overlap. They overlap right here. So that means my solution is 4 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, counting up all the squares, 4/15. So just knowing where those values come from, the numerator is where we see that overlap, and the denominator is how many total pieces there were in our entire brownie pan, for example. Okay, so now it's your turn to try to apply that. So I'm going to leave you with 2/5 times 3/4, and I want to make sure that you make a model. Some of you might be noticing a pattern that you can use to multiply, but in this particular video, our skill that we're practicing is actually making the model. So be sure to make the model and then write the product. And remember, the essential question of this video was, how do we visualize or model multiplying fractions? So that's why it's important that you have that rectangular model there to help us achieve that. We will talk about this more in class, and of course, feel free to ask or bring any questions that you might have.